Hello. Um, Welcome. My name's Dylan. I also go by Twin Crows and Possess Lemon around Skyrim modding. And yeah, welcome. Today I'm going to be continuing on with a little bit of a series I'm doing on building a dungeon for the Beyond Skyrim project. This is something where I'm doing it live on Twitch and then I edit the video together and I upload it to YouTube. So it's been pretty fun so far. It's been awesome to see that there are so many people interested in watching and learning about what the modding process is and everything. So yeah, thanks for checking this out. This is the second episode in the series so far. The first one I started building the basics of the dungeon, and now I'm just going to continue building. Yeah. This is for the Beyond Skyrim Cyrodiil project. So this is a modding project that we have people contributing from all over the world. There's a bunch of people over in Europe, a bunch of people in North America. I'm over on the west coast of Canada. I live near Vancouver. And yeah, it's cool. We're contributing and kind of building something collaboratively all over the world. All right. Yeah, so there's still a whole bunch of work ahead of us on the Beyond Skyrim projects. And there's multiple of them. There's one for Cyrodiil, there's one for Vanua, there's a whole bunch of them too. So if you're interested, there's definitely room to get in on the project. The first step really is learning how to use the creation kit, learning how to mod. There's amazing tutorials for the creation kit up on the official creation kit wiki. It has these great tutorials that show you everything you need to know in order to do things like level design like this. And that's pretty much it. Yeah, like you can get on the project pretty easy. Really just having some kind of proof of like you've gone through the effort to learn how to mod, and you can put something up there, and then you can get in on it, and you can get the files, which is the most important part, because once you have the files, you can see what's going on in the project everywhere. So yeah, it's pretty awesome that way. I know I was stoked when I first got on. I'm like, oh my god, all these cool files. I can check out, like, you know, what's going on in Kvatch, like what's going over in, what's Leowyn look like right now. So it's a real treat if you get in there. And yeah, next thing I want to go through is just thanking the patrons for supporting. I recently opened up like a Patreon for kind of my modding and stuff to see if people would be interested in supporting, and people have been, which is really awesome. So yeah, I'll just go through and thank the patrons by name. So thank you to Deborah Mitchell, Alec McGee, Melissa Rodriguez, Nervous Jerboa, Stephen Ludeking, Ian Humphreys, Upsilon, Karen Hibbard, and Richard Ely. Thanks, you guys, for supporting me and yeah, making this happen, because these streams, doing this as a stream series, is something that's directly coming from that Patreon. So it's cool to see kind of what we can do when we kind of start supporting the modders and everything. So thanks a whole lot. So last time I streamed, there were a couple crashes that happened. That may still happen this time, so just keep in mind if I do crash, it's going to be my computer. Like, it's something to do with the streaming software I use, so my whole computer will turn off, it'll give me a blue screen, and I have to restart my computer. So in case that happens, just hold on, and I'll be back in about 2 minutes. I have a solid state hard drive, so it boots up super quick. I'll be back in 2 minutes, but creation kit will probably take a little bit longer than that to load, but at least we'll have the nice music. Alright, so now that we have that done, we can get into it. So I just loaded up the creation kit because I had a fresh crash right before I started, which is kind of a good thing if you think about it, because hopefully it won't crash for a little while still. And I'm just going to open up Vanua here. So let's see, YRV Vanua. All right, here we go. So, last episode. Just gonna change the audio up just a little bit. There we go. Okay, so last time we started building the first kind of area here, and it goes down under the water, up a little bit. You continue on this pathway, and then you have these catacombs here. There's a couple skeletons. You kind of keep pushing forward, and you go here, and then you go through this branch, and then we're in this room. So this is the most recent room. That's where I'm going to start. And yeah, I thought this would be a cool series to do because I get to show you guys the whole thing. You know, I think it'll probably take maybe 3 more episodes to finish the whole dungeon. And through the whole process, you're going to see everything that goes into making one of these dungeons. Okay, so I have the dungeon up. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open up Oblivion. Okay, it might be a little bit loud when it boots up here. So, I'm booting up Oblivion here, and the reason I do it is because for Beyond Skyrim Cyrodiil, we're rebuilding the province of Cyrodiil, which was the location of Oblivion, and we're rebuilding it in the Skyrim engine, in the time of Skyrim. So your Skyrim character can go to... go into Cyrodiil. You can actually just walk south from Skyrim and you end up in Cyrodiil. And yeah. I just gotta find the cell name for Vanua. Okay, here we go. So ND Vanua. It's because I had my Xbox actually plugged in. So I'm just gonna reboot. I'm gonna do something quick beforehand. I was talking with something over with my girlfriend about showing you. We have an Argonian in the house. It's a gecko, and I'll be right back. I'll show you that. All right, I'm back. So yeah, that was our little Argonian. We have Dia. She's the little leopard gecko. Yeah. Okay. Where was I? I was just rebooting Oblivion here. But yeah, she's our precious little lizard. She's been like kicking things around in her cage recently. She has like an instinct to dig, So we ended up getting her like some kind of like leopard gecko safe mulch for her to dig in a little bit. She's pretty cool. She's a very instinctual kind of animal, but she likes to come out sometimes. Okay, so COC ND Vanua. I still can't move forward. I don't know why that is. Oh my god. I can't move forward because my character's over encumbered. That's the reason. I was thinking like, see, that's the way that modding gets you, is like you always think that it's something extremely complicated and then it's like, oh, it was that. That was what it was. It was not a bug, it was literally just the game. Okay, how do I drop? What's the hotkey to drop stuff again? Oh my god. Shift click, there we go. Okay. Now we can move. Now we can explore the dungeon. So I'm just gonna bring him. It's really clanging. What are you wearing? Oh, it's your boots. You're probably wearing boots, aren't you? No, you're wearing leather shoes. How come you're clanging like that? There we go. Now he's stepping a lot quieter. I'm going to turn detection off so that we don't get attacked by any of these skeletons down here. So we're in Oblivion to show you, to compare them. Because how I build this is I just go right into Oblivion, I walk through the scene, and I just build it based off of what it looked like in Oblivion. Okay, so now we're here. I'm going to turn the gobbo down so I don't drown. Great, so back here, to compare the two. So here's that entrance. Mine's a little bit different, mine's above the water a little bit. Our kit is sometimes a little bit different, and this is all custom 3D stuff. All this Iliad dungeon, this has been done by an artist because we're not legally able to just copy and paste the Oblivion assets. So what they do instead, what the 3D artists do, is they recreate it like from scratch. They look at the original models, they create these new models, and we build it based off of that. And they've done a fantastic job. There's assets for everything. I was looking like right before the stream just to see what other things are there, and I can show you a little bit too, just as a little tease. This isn't new stuff. I'm sure a lot of this has been already teased better than I'm about to do, but the we have lay-a-win buildings, for instance. So if I preview this, I'll move my preview window over here. So there's buildings for everything here. See, there's the lay-a-win buildings. So we have all the assets we need, really, to build the whole project out. It's really just that we need to have kind of more hands on deck kind of thing, more people creating dungeons and things like that. Yeah, because the 3D artists, they've created a ton of things already, and it's just we need more people to kind of put the pieces into place. Cool. So yeah, so just gonna run through the Oblivion dungeon until we get to the place where I finished off. Okay, so here's the entrance. You kind of enter, you go kind of under the water a bit, come up and out. In the chat, it's 1 AM in Germany right now, and I actually wanted to call it quits for the night. Well, sleep was overrated anyway. Keep up the amazing work. Oh, thanks, man. I will also have it uploaded on YouTube, so if you do need to sleep, take care of yourself. I'll upload it on YouTube probably within the next few days. Yeah. I have a Twitter as well. Twitter is probably where I'm the most active when I post announcements and stuff. So if you want to have some way to, link back to this, Twitter's probably the best way to do it. I think I have that information down on the bottom there. So yeah, so this is the beginning of this dungeon. some skellies walking around. We have this room here, so I built this room out. Or there's a zombie. There's this kind of split path here. We go up the stairs, go into this room here. There's a key somewhere. Go through here, and then this is the most recent room. So this one here is the same as this one over here. Yeah. Chat. I feel nostalgic and I haven't even played Oblivion. Also, hello. Hello. Yeah, I mean, that's one of the awesome things about the project. And the awesome thing about Oblivion, too, is that it's such a good game that there are hundreds of people working on this Beyond Skyrim Cyrodiil project at varying times. We're not all active at once, but over the course of the project, there has been a few hundred people involved. And it's just such a great world. Oblivion really stands up too. Like, even when I'm swapping back to it, the graphics aren't that bad. And the gameplay is pretty awesome too. So, I'm gonna continue on with this one. But first, this is my stream beer. It is a cream ale, and I'm going to be drinking that over the course of this. I also have this magnificent horn mug here. That was made by somebody in my area. I think horn is such a cool material because... Oh, it's forming up! Okay, I'll be right back. I gotta get a cloth. Alright. Disaster averted. No beer got on the keyboard. Okay. So anyways. Yeah, so we're gonna build this room today. And it's based off of this. So I've got to start with some light. I see there's a chandelier here, and there's a few features up on that second level. So we're gonna start with that light. There's a few cool things I've seen people do as chandeliers in the project. I think one of them smells like a Welkin stone holder. There's a few ways that we kind of mix and match the kits together to make some really cool looking things. This is how we do it. Just take the chandelier and put one of these. This is a Welkin stone holder, but it also kind of looks like a holder for the chandelier too. Just kind of like that. Might bring it down a little bit more. Yeah, there we go. And then the chain comes out of that. Nice. And I'm just gonna make it a little bit bigger so the light kind of fills the room. Inside the chandelier, I'm gonna add... Oh, I already made a short of chandeliers. I could have just copied this thing. But either way, just grab that part of it. And paste it right in there. And voila! We have a really cool looking chandelier. Might put a couple more crystals in it too, just so that it looks like it's kind of a larger chandelier, enough to fill this room, whatever it was, some kind of a catacomb or resting place for the long dead aliens. That works. And then there's a couple of these bases. So there's one there and one there. One of them's broken. The other one is still standing. Cool. So, I've been thinking about this dungeon, and I took some notes. Bring those up here. So, yeah, it's been about a month since I did the last episode in this, and so over that time I've been kind of thinking. I took some notes down about what I'd like to do with this dungeon in particular, and I was thinking about what its original purpose was, and then maybe what it has turned into. So within Oblivion, that game, it was where the hero of Kvatch, the main character in that game, recovered the Helm of the Crusader, which is one of the pieces of equipment of Palinel Whitestrake. And one of the themes that we're doing in Cyrodiil is sort of, it has to do with the contrast between what is Cyrodiil and what is Skyrim. Skyrim's very kind of the frontier lands in a way, not really the frontiers, but more of this like rugged, kind of out there. It's not civilized. It's sort of definitely like rugged. You know, they're almost like cavemen a little bit, the Nords. And in contrast to that, the Cyrodiils, the Imperials, they're a lot more put together. They are interested in history differently, and things like that. So what I was thinking with Vanua was, what is the purpose of kind of a reliquary? So like the place where the Helm of the Crusader used to be, and it used to be actually held there. there's this room in it where the helm is kind of sitting on this altar. And so what happens to a reliquary after the relic is gone, after it has filled its purpose? It kind of becomes this forgotten place. And so the idea that I'm having for Vanua so far, after I build the bases, like after I build each room out, I'm going to start doing some more definitions on it. And I was thinking it might be actually a pretty good place for a lich. I was thinking of maybe putting a lich in this dungeon. And I love liches. I love dungeons that involve liches because they end up being these really overgrown, collapsed versions. And I think that that's a really interesting theme to take in a dungeon that used to be the location of, you know, part of the quest for Knights of the Nine. It used to be this reliquary for the Knights of the Nine. But it's no longer needed. The helm was taken out. There's actually, I think there's a Creation Club DLC for Skyrim that involves the Knights of the Nine gear. So they created like some way of getting it. I'm not sure exactly. So I didn't want to put the actual helm of the Crusader, but I wanted to put almost like this kind of sick replica. So I had this idea. It's going to be called the Helm of the White Worm. And, you know, like a worm is kind of like a dragon. Pelinel Whitestrike was a white dragon, was kind of the last name. So this is almost this kind of sick replica of it. And it's not going to be quite the same, but it's going to have, it's going to fortify your illusion, fortify your restoration. It's going to do some of the similar things that the actual helm does, but it's kind of this, you know, this replica. So yeah, that's going to be the theme of it. It's kind of this crumbled place. In chat, Cyrodiil is the seat of the Empire since forever. Wow, Skyrim was always cray. Yeah. I think it's really cool the lore that the project at Mora. There's also a modding project at Mora, and they're going into kind of the lore of the ancient Nords, which is really cool. It's sort of like the Nords are like the ancient humans that kind of came from this like frozen area. Alright, so what have I done so far? I have added that chandelier. I've added a couple things to it. And this thing, I gotta figure out what to do about this. So there's a hole. There's a hole in the wall here. Okay, let's see if I have anything like that. Let's put it right there. I think what I might need to do is something kind of custom. So I might need to, because there may not be a specific piece I can just easily place in there. I think I'm going to have to do something interesting here. Yeah. Cool. So using different pieces, I could use bricks and things to build that up a bit. And I'll get some kind of a flooring. I could maybe put some columns. I could do that. I could also wreck it even more, but it kind of goes into a tunnel, and then the tunnel goes into a little door right here. The other thing that I could do, the other option, would be collapsing that area more so that it's blocked off, and changing the layout of the dungeon so that you end up going in this way instead. That actually might be kind of cool. But then there's another tunnel here, so it might be easier for me to figure out how to do that tunnel and copy it. Yeah, that's probably the best way. Okay, so I'm gonna try and build that thing up. Chat, how many issues have you guys had with that sort of big bad ZeniMax, if any at all? I haven't heard of any. I have never actually heard of a single modder having trouble with ZeniMax or Bethesda. And that's not to say it doesn't happen, because sometimes what they'll do is they'll have some way, some kind of contractual way where, you know, you're not supposed to talk about it if there is a problem. I don't know how that stuff works. I'm in Canada, so like I don't know exactly how all the laws and stuff apply. But yeah, no, I haven't heard of anything like that. It's pretty much just, I think they lay down kind of ground rules as far as like, in terms of like property rights, and this doesn't necessarily just apply to Skyrim, it applies to like any kind of modding, is we can't take content directly from Oblivion and put it into Skyrim mods, because, and I wish we could kind of mix all the Elder Scrolls content together, but each game is published differently. So the rights of kind of the artists who created the assets for Oblivion, they were kind of provided in a way that, okay, you can use these assets for this one game, but if you reuse the assets for another game, now you kind of have to make sure that those artists get their fair share and stuff. But yeah, no, I think they've been very positive about it. I think that if anything, modding and especially these projects really add to the value of Skyrim. So I think that these companies are actually really stoked about what we do. That being said, I wish Bethesda would support us, because we're giving value to them. But yeah, no, they haven't kind of pulled away from us at all. At least not that I've heard of. But then again, I do mostly just the level design and stuff like that. So there's other people who do more of the administration and things. Okay, so my goal is to build this thing. And it is going to be a bit of a challenge, but I think it'll be possible. I do have some exterior. Yeah, these will work. Sometimes things are marked as exterior. They don't need to be exterior. I don't see any difference in the textures or anything, so... because I know some of these are marked with, like, EXT. That can use used for interiors, too. It might have to do with, like, the LOD. There's, like, a distance view of some things. Build myself a nice palette of bricks here. So the more I'm messing around with this, the more I think it's going to work. Because I can see I actually have a whole lot of blocks here that I can use to kind of recreate it. It won't look exactly the same, but I think it'll do pretty good. Chat. Hey, amazing work you're doing here. I wanted to ask if you work closely with Skyblivion in terms of assets. Thank you. Yeah, it's awesome. Like, it's cool to hear like so many people are into like what we're doing and stuff. That's always like what motivates us and keeps us going. In terms of working with Skyblivion, as far as I know, and I don't know too much about like the 3D team and how they work specifically, but I think they do separate assets. So it's interesting because the Skyblivion team and the Beyond Skyrim team are kind of separate, and I think they work on different assets. It may be possible that some of them are shared, but yeah, because I mean, I certainly don't see any reason why we wouldn't share assets between the two teams. It may be that there's kind of a different like stylistic differences that the two teams have between each other. From what I've seen, the Skyblivion assets are more focused on like really rich detail. Like it's incredible the quality of their screenshots and things. The Skyblivion team, they're very concerned with very high quality, because I think a lot of them are using, and a lot of everybody who contributes to the Beyond Skyrim project, we use our contributions to kind of build our own portfolios in terms of things that we want to kind of we want to show that we're capable of doing this stuff, so that future projects, when they come around, we can kind of apply for them and show them like, hey, you know, I'm awesome at this because I created this. So yeah, it's interesting how people they contribute to the project. I wonder if I can use this thing here, floor edge. Maybe not quite. It's a little too big. Okay. The other thing I'm going to do is grab the tunnel. It's going to be, I think we'll call it a mine. Chat, what you're trying to work on right now. Yeah, thank you for joining. I am currently working on building a dungeon for the Beyond Skyrim Cyrodiil modding project. So currently I'm working on one of the dungeons that is pretty close to the Imperial City. Actually, Vanua is kind of like in the lake. It's actually it starts underwater. And then you kind of come out from underwater, and yeah, it's one of the dungeons in the game. Alright, so that's kind of the size. And where does it go exactly? Kind of goes straight, and it turns left a little bit, and then straight, and then down. Chat. Yeah, hey, thanks for your kind words, man. And yeah. I think everybody, there's so many people who are stoked to see the project come out and everything. And there's still quite a while. I'm not gonna lie, there's a lot of work still. And yeah, but the only way to get it done is to kind of contribute and kind of build it up. Okay, so there's the left piece. new realism in the chat. I've tried making my own dungeons and interiors in the creation kit before. I'm so bad at it. No creativity in this one at all. It's tough, man. I mean, especially when you're working with, it's almost, you know, like working on computer like graphic stuff as opposed to like traditional art is so different because, you know, like if you have a brush, you can kind of swing it around and have fun with it. Compared to this, where it's like super technical, and it unfortunately like it takes a lot of like training and practice to get to a point where I am now, where I can have fun with it and I can sort of just open it up and be like, hey, you know, I'm going to build a dungeon, and I'm not going to be like, oh man, how do I do that thing? And you know, building it in such a way that it's not so stressful for me anymore. It takes a long time to build up to that, but it's really just a matter of putting in the hours and following the tutorials and stuff. I mentioned right at the very beginning of this video, there's some creation kit. There's a creation kit wiki that has a whole bunch of tutorials on it, and that is, when I went through it, like it was kind of grueling to get through it all, because it just takes so much time, and especially when you want to engage with something as a hobby, it's like you don't want to have to slog through tutorials and stuff in order to, you know, have fun with it. Yeah. Chat, I was just using the regular Skyrim assets. How long have you been working on the project? Yeah, the regular assets are like, there's some really cool stuff. There's actually a lot of stuff that hadn't been explored before. One of the first mods that I like really published and released was one called Akaviri Temple of Severian Chorak, which is a long name, and but it ended up getting featured by Bethesda, which really like pushed my engagement with modding and stuff. And that one was actually, it was really unusual because it was using the what is it, Skyhaven Temple, using the assets from that part of the game, which are like you don't see them anywhere else except for that area. And I was like, oh cool, like it kind of looks like, you know, I can stack these things and make this kind of pagoda looking thing. Maybe I should just bring that up so I can show you guys. Yeah, here we go. I can just pull this up. So here's just some photos. Here we go. It might be kind of small, but this is kind of what it looks like. And the cool thing about making like this mods and stuff and releasing it is that I see people like releasing videos playing my mods, and that part of the experience is like incredible, because when you're building these things and you're slogging through and you're working on these tutorials for so many hours, and then you release something and you're like, oh man, like people can check it out, they can actually play it and stuff, and that's cool. Just knowing that people are playing your stuff is cool. But seeing people make like YouTube reviews where they're playing through your content is just like the next level of like, wow, like the things that we're making through modding and just these free digital creations we're doing for other people, people are really engaging with it, and it kind of makes, I don't know, it changes the way you think. It definitely changed the way that I thought when I started doing this, because I'm like, wow, like there's this huge world, like we're the first generation really who's engaged with the internet, and being able to put stuff out there online for people all over the world is something that has never really been tapped before. So it's interesting. I think it's really cool. But this is that dungeon. I just want to show you guys, because when you're building a dungeon, you don't have to use typical stuff. You can really like look through all the assets that are out there, and you can just build things that are just crazy, right? Like it's nothing, doesn't look like anything that's in Skyrim. But yeah, that's that one. All right. So it's almost like a little bit wider, and then it goes in. I wonder if I have any pieces that would do that. So much of the creation kit is just looking for these pieces. You want to find the right one. That one kind of does what I want. It's not wide enough at the entrance, though. That's too big. New Realism, I got a question for you. What's the difference modding between LE and SE versions? And also, what would be the better version to use if you were to mod your Skyrim? The biggest difference is which version of the creation kit you're using. So if you're modding LE, you're using the old creation kit, which is, I'm using it now because I have my Beyond Skyrim contributions and my Beyond Skyrim set up to work on my Legendary Edition creation kit. But if I was going to recommend which version to use to somebody getting into it, definitely use the Special Edition creation kit because it is much more stable. It has better features. One of the features that it does is it has this really easy upload to Bethesda.net. So if you're just starting out with modding and you kind of just want to get things out there, you're not necessarily ready to publish something on the Nexus, you can actually use the new creation kit and the creation kit for Special Edition, and that one will be a little bit easier to upload stuff. New Realism asking because I heard ENB looks a lot better on Legacy. Yeah, it's interesting because I think for so many years, like Legacy Skyrim has been around for so many years, and people have really built and almost like perfected what you could do on LE for the Legendary Edition. But based on what I know of the Special Edition, the potential seems to be a lot higher. I only really, when I started like publishing and stuff like that, I only really did it on Special Edition. I actually came after kind of like there was all those early Skyrim Age modders. I was a late Skyrim Age modder, and so when I started modding, I was just doing it through Special Edition, but I was doing it before people really believed in it. Like right when Special Edition, there was a lot of people going, "Oh, like we can't get into Special Edition because all our mods aren't going to work on it." But I was one of the people who was really kind of starting to build up what was available on Special Edition, and part of that was that I was publishing for PlayStation 4. Not a lot of people were publishing things that were compatible on PS4. So I ended up building like an alternate start mod as well. That was actually playable on PS4 because the default like Live Another Life, that one there's so many scripts in it you can't play it on PS4. But I found out this kind of interesting solution to make an alternate start mod that was good, also work on Special Edition. And that mod is called Realm of Lorcan. The pandas in chat. You made that mod? Awesome. Yeah, dude, I did. Yeah, that was a fun project. It started small. It was really basic at first, but it's grown over the years. I think it's been out for two years, 2 or 3. Cactus Bob, could you use an alien door tile and disguise it with rubble? I might be able to. I'm gonna check that next. I'm gonna go through these assets to see if I can find the right entrance for the cave. But thank you for saying that, because I'll take a look at that next and see if that's possible. The cool thing about building dungeons is that I like it because I'm kind of a slow thinker. I like to think through stuff really slowly, and when you're building a dungeon, you don't have to get it all right away. You can start kind of building it later on. New realism. Hey, don't worry. Honestly, ask away because I'll be editing it later. So like if I find that things are going too slow or anything, like the video that I'm going to upload on YouTube, I might cut out some things if it gets distracting or not. But for the most part, like don't worry about it, because I think the real like value of something like this is also I get to answer like questions that people have too, so that everybody can learn more about modding. And yeah. Okay, so I got a few pieces there. Now I'm gonna try the alien door thing. So let's see if there's so those are the actual doors, and then I want to find it's a specific part. I think this is EX. It's an exit. I could almost use this, because if I really change it up, this is kind of no, it's just a little different. Okay, what are these called? Alien pit walls, alien pit corners. Yeah. Alright, I think I'm gonna have to try and do it with all these blocks here. And then I'm just gonna fill it in with rubble, any place that doesn't quite look right. So I'm gonna check this out here. So I think I can build the center, but I'm gonna have to have it collapsed rubble all the way out, like even beyond this part. Like this part's gonna have to be collapsed, and then over here's gonna be collapsed. This will take a bit, but the nice thing about it is that I know that this piece is used maybe 2 or 3 times in the dungeon. So even though it takes me a little bit to build it the first time, once it's built, it's going to be done. So then I'll be able to just copy and paste it out. Alright, so I'm just going to have at it, really. So these things, one thing I got to remember too, these bricks, I actually have to place them, because they don't have a bottom, they just have the top. See, I can see through it from the bottom. So for all of these, I actually have to pick it up and flip it. So it's going to go like that against the wall. As well as that, I'm gonna take I'm gonna grab some boulders too. The pandas in chat loving the music. Yay! Yeah. It's just amazing. Here, actually, I'll give you guys there's the playlist as well. And for people who might be viewing this later on YouTube, here's the playlist as well. So I'll just get in case you guys want to look at it too. That's the link right there. So Ghost Possessed Lemon /set/ Elder Scrolls Creation Mix. And that's where all the music is. It's just a collection of community-made Elder Scrolls-related music, and this playlist puts me into a trance. It makes me feel super productive on Creation Kit stuff, and it just kind of keeps me focused. It's inspiring to listen to all of this stuff that people have made just out of love and interest for the Elder Scrolls games. New realism. Is it possible to make a living off of just modding? Certainly not. The unfortunate thing about modding is that it is kind of like because we're not able to ask for money for a mod. So there can never be a pay gate for a mod. It can't be like, oh, you have to pay this much money for a mod. Part of that's because then it kind of puts Bethesda into a problematic situation where if people couldn't make games based off of the platform, there would be all kinds of like artists and programmers' rights that would be stepped on, and it would put a lot of people out of work. But in terms of other things, right? So that's kind of why, like me, for instance, looking for more ways of kind of because I want to make modding something that I do throughout my whole life. I started looking at kind of ways to help me kind of get by and also incentivize me to do things that I might be otherwise uncomfortable with, like streaming, for instance. Like I'm more of an introverted kind of a person, so for me in some ways it's kind of like stepping out of my regular comfort zone to sort of like start streaming and stuff like that. But yeah, like in terms of kind of making a living off of modding, I think you would have to sacrifice a lot of time first to like get into having the amount of skills to pull that off. I know that so there's a lot of modders who do stuff on Patreon, and there's what is it? Enai Siadan? I have no clue how to pronounce it, but Enai Enai. I think it's Siadon. That person has a very successful Patreon, and so in terms of that, yeah, and then there's all those other kind of components to it too. So like, how much money does it really cost to live where you live? I live over in Canada, where we still have to. Everybody has to work. So there's always that kind of component to it. But I think it's definitely possible to kind of live cheaply, and things like that. To be able to kind of spend, you know, if not all of your time modding, you can spend a little bit more time. Lependus, you still go to work despite the pandemic. I have to work from home. I work in IT, so yeah, we're kind of trying to help people to get set up for working remotely and things. Toastabro in chat. So right now you're recreating a dungeon from Oblivion? Yes. Are most of the dungeons in this mod recreations of the one in Oblivion? Yep. The idea that we're doing for the Beyond Skyrim Cyrodiil project is that we are pretty much recreating all or most of the dungeons in Oblivion. And with that, we are going through all the dungeons and recreating them, not necessarily completely how they were, but sort of how we imagine they might be. As I think 150 years, something like that, have passed. New realism. What are your opinions on Bethesda Creation Club? I think it's interesting. I haven't applied for it. At first, I mean, there are a lot of people, modders, and what I would call like critics, who have different opinions on different things about it, and different opinions about corporations in general. I think a lot of people who are against Bethesda are more so just against corporations in general. I don't see anything wrong with it. I think it's, for me, like, the reasons why I wouldn't get involved with that is mostly because it's very, I find that it's a little bit constraining, because their payment system is kind of set up where you have to kind of make certain kinds of mods in order to work through it and stuff. And I just love the idea that, you know, digital content, like, why are we charging for digital content? Yeah, it doesn't cost anybody to copy it or anything, so a little bit of a pirate that way. The pandas in chat. I think it's kind of unfair to charge what, $10 from a camera. Yeah, I mean, well, and they totally botched the release on the Skyrim thing when, like, I think they didn't realize how tense the community would get when Bethesda started to change everybody's beloved modding community. Because just, I remember that kind of idea of, you know, the Creation Club, are you going to have some creators who are going to charge for content and other ones who aren't? I remember, yeah, that was back in the early days when there was those like controversies and stuff. But yeah, I think it was outrageous that they were charging so much for some of those things. I think the dynamics kind of have to change too, like on both sides, because obviously nobody wants to pay that much for it. But then it's sort of on the other side, like if we're not going to pay that much for it, do we need it? Like, is it the right of the artist to charge what they believe is right for what they created? Revan the Grey, what is your opinion of the anime? I'll just say the risque anime mods. I don't know. It's they definitely get clicks. That's for sure. I have noticed, because I look at all the analytics of mods and stuff, and those anime mods certainly get a lot more exposure than the other ones. I think everybody has. I think the beautiful thing about modding is that you can create a game that is exactly what you're looking for, and from that angle, I think, you know, I would say, like, go for it. Do whatever you want, because it's really about what you enjoy and what you want to do with the time that you have. All right, this is starting to come together. I still have to do these side things, but I was worried about this at first. It was taking me a little bit to figure out what I wanted to do, but I think what I'm going to do is it'll kind of, the thing's going to be a little bit more collapsed. This room is going to look almost completely different from what it looked like when I started the stream, and but the nice thing about it is that I'll be able to copy this room, I'll be able to paste it, and I think we'll be able to use this at least one more time later on in the dungeon. I'll just mix the rocks around a bit. Revan the Grey in chat. It's like, no, it's your world at the end of the day. It's like we are all Vivek in the dream, creating and destroying at will. I have an interesting theory. I think Chim is the creation kit. I think Vivek was a modder. And he was creating his own little files to edit the game. Let's see if I can kind of do a cool matching thing with the brick here. Oh yeah, there we go. That's cool. It just kind of looks like that brick got pushed out a bit. Le Pandas, what would you say is the closest Beyond Skyrim project to release? At Mora, I mean, in terms of like kind of different areas, at Mora, I mean, it's not like a, it is a province, but it's not one of the kind of conventional ones. And I think that has been something really interesting for them to develop because it kind of gives them free reign to do whatever they want with it. But aside from that, I think it's I wish I knew more about the other projects. Like part of it is just that I haven't necessarily looked into all that much into what the other provinces are doing. But I have seen a few other streams because that's kind of one of the interesting ways that we get to learn about what each other are doing too, is through these streams. The closest province to release, probably still Cyrodiil. Yeah, I think it's probably Cyrodiil, unless the other ones. I mean, Cyrodiil itself is kind of the scale of it is that it's almost as big as Skyrim. There's almost as many quests and things planned as the original game. But it kind of just depends on those other provinces. Like, are they doing a similar scale, or are they kind of shooting for something more like a DLC? Because if they are, then that would mean that that project might actually get complete quite a bit faster. Sort of like how Cyrodiil, they did Bruma first, kind of a little expansion-sized sample of what the end project would be. The Pandas, were you guys at any point considering making Cyrodiil a jungle, like its depiction in the lore? I know there's been a lot of talk about jungle Cyrodiil. So jungle Cyrodiil is, I think it's like Cyrodiil how it was originally depicted, like back in one of the earliest Elder Scrolls games. I don't know if it was Arena. I think it was kind of depicted, maybe it wasn't, I'm not quite sure. But there was this idea of Cyrodiil that wasn't like Heartland Cyrodiil, it was more of this jungle. Which is really funny to me, because I live over near Vancouver in Canada, which is also kind of like a temperate rainforest. So in a way, in real life, I live in jungle Cyrodiil. And it's an interesting place. I think the closest thing that we have to jungle Cyrodiil is there's actually an area that is kind of designed to be like that, where we're introducing a new city. I can't remember what the name of it is, but it's that sort of like eastern, kind of more towards the Black Marshes, Argonia, and Breville, kind of that area in the east. There was talk about a quest to kind of travel back in time, and you can see a little bit of jungle Cyrodiil. I'm not sure if that ended up continuing on or not. Atsuke30 in chat, how many people are actually working on Beyond Skyrim? I think at any given day, there's probably about 10 people doing work on it. Over the scale of like a year or two, that number though of people who contribute to the project is probably around 100. But it's a great project. It's awesome because it's very voluntary. Like, I don't feel like I'm ever being hassled to do anything aside from sometimes checking in files. Like, if you have a file checked out for you and you're going on like a vacation or something, it's usually a good idea to check it in. But other than that, like, it's a very free project. There's very like no responsibilities as far as like things you might need to do. It's all just kind of voluntary. But yeah, I think that's a good amount too. Like, having maybe 10 people working on it a day. I think the big difference is, I mean, especially when like games like Oblivion came out, the conditions for like the people working on those dungeons was crazy because, you know, it was definitely at that time with gaming and stuff, and still kind of today a little bit, not as much, but there was more of that culture of like sleep under your desk kind of thing, and they were really like, you know, burning everything away to get that thing done. So it'll take a while for this one to come out, but I think everybody has a great connection to it that means that we will continue working on it. It's different from a commercial project, where a commercial project, sometimes there's that kind of anxiety of, if a commercial project hasn't been done for 10 years or something, or even 5 years or 3 years, if it hasn't come out yet, will it ever, right? Will it lose funding? But with a voluntary project over the internet, it's completely different. And I think that, yeah, like, it will be done someday. It's just a matter of how many people are building it. And I think one of the awesome things about Skyrim is that it is so moddable. Like, we have all the tools. This, like, many games are not anywhere near this. And I mean, it's been quite a few years since Skyrim came out, and I don't really think there's any games that have had the same level of moddability. And maybe there won't be. Maybe there won't be very many games that come out in the future that are so openly modifiable. So it's possible that Skyrim may be one of the most modifiable games for quite some time still. One thing that working on this project has really given me like a renewed appreciation for is this idea that when people make games, they're not necessarily thinking that the game is going to be consumed and then thrown away within 5 years. There's no reason why we shouldn't still be enjoying all of those classic games that have had so much effort put into them. Because things like Oblivion, like, they really stand up. They're still there. And maybe that norm, that idea of this game is old, let's no longer play it, you know, maybe that's not well founded. Maybe we should still be playing these older games. I've been playing World of Warcraft recently, but I'm playing the early stuff because I never got super into it, and I always kind of wanted to get into it, but I never really had the chance because of the everybody always thinks there's a big time investment involved, but you can take any game and you can play it at your pace. I'm really enjoying this. Sometimes it's really fun to work on a detail for like however long it's been. What time is it now? Yeah, I mean, I've probably been working on this detail for like 40 minutes or so. But it is super rewarding when you finish it off and you're like, yeah, that's awesome. Atsuke in chat, have you created some mods before working on this? I did, yeah. I first started out doing personal house mods. So those are the easiest thing to start doing, is just kind of like make a house for your own player character. Because you can build it exactly how you want. You can give yourself like a specific armor set if you want. Building things for your playthrough is like one of the coolest ways to get started. Revan asking, are you familiar with NI Sala? Best mechanical changes to the perk system. I have never talked to them, but I do use a lot of their mods in my playthroughs. I think what they've done is just incredible, and the amount of effort that they put into it is just like top notch. Like, they're definitely the best creator that comes to mind. There's something amazing that happens when a person has spent so many times in something. It really is just a matter of hours and you can become an expert in anything. And for them, they've just spent a whole lot of hours in Skyrim modding, and that has allowed them to do these things. It's cool when you look at because for a lot of on the Nexus, for instance, you can look at a mod and you can see, okay, when was it created, things like that. So you can actually kind of look at a creator and look at their history and see, like, you know, where did they start? What were their first mods? Which can be a really helpful way of, you know, if you're starting out modding, you can look at what did other people start with? What were their first things? Rather than looking at, you know, what are people putting at now? Like, what's the top of the game kind of thing? Because nobody starts at the top. Everybody starts building just nice, simple things. Build what makes you happy. Almost got this done. And then I'm going to add bricks and things coming out. I just have to make sure it's tall enough. I need to grab a skeleton and check the scale of this. I might just need to make it a little bigger, just to make sure that a skeleton, these creatures can get through. It looks like these boulders have a bit of a different texture, so maybe I can fix that too. Good old T-posing skeleton here. That's the same one. Atsuki in the chat, in what program do you create textures for Skyrim? Is something like Blender good enough? A lot of people use Blender. I know there's also a tool called Nifscope. It's Nifskope, and it is a modder's tool that allows you to edit these files called .nif files. It's kind of a technical tool, but it's also a really good way to do some kind of basic edits and stuff. I think this hole might be just big enough now. As well as that, previously, when I've done a little bit of 3D modeling, mostly for like textures and things like that. I have a mod called Narrative Loot, which adds a whole lot of items to the game. Like literally, it adds thousands of items. Most of them are dishware of different colors and stuff, so a lot of them are kind of recolors. But it adds a huge quantity of new items. And for setting the physics on some of them, I used 3ds Max because it has a thing that allows you to print things. If you're doing items need physics. So one of the best ways to do that is for 3ds Max. I just used a trial, and I tried to just kind of rush it through and get that stuff figured out while I had the trial. But I've heard there are other ways you can acquire 3ds Max. Alright, there we go. So there's our... there it is. Whew. Oh boy, that took a while. Alright. It's not even finished yet. I still want to add some bricks to it, just to make it look nice. It's funny how I'm saying looking nice. This is a dungeon. In some ways, when I'm building a dungeon, I feel a little bit like a lich. I have like the sensibilities of a lich. The things that I think are nice are like these grody vines coming out, and I'm like, oh, nice. That's beautiful. Way to go. If I had a spirit animal, let me pull it up. It would be the guy from the cover of Daggerfall. This guy's my spirit animal. Right over here. This fellow. That's my spirit animal when I'm modding. Just gotta think, what would the lich do? Lepandas, do you think modding ability is more nature or nurture? I think in my terms, it's been that it built on a lot of the technical knowledge that I had, and it allowed me to build even more technical knowledge. So, like in terms of that, you know, the nature versus nurture kind of thing, I think they're both the same, honestly. I think that it's about what you do with the time you have, what you do with the things in front of you, right? Everybody has access to the internet, but do we read Wikipedia all day? No. Should we? Maybe. And I think from that angle, it's about what we believe is the best thing to do with our ability. I love reading Wikipedia, the pandas. Yeah, me too, dude. I remember in school, we had I had tech classes in school, and they were my favorite because I loved computers even when I was younger too. I was super into them. And in our tech class, we were able to we had a reading hour, or like a reading 20 minutes or something at the start of one of the classes of the day. And I love to have the reading hour in my tech classes because our teacher was like, if you want to read stuff on the internet, like on Wikipedia or other things, you can go for it. So we would. And we had some games. We had a game where the goal was to travel from one Wikipedia page to another, just using the links. So it would be like, okay, well, you're gonna start with Tom Cruise, and you have to end up with Tyrannosaurus Rex. So how do you get from one of the pages to another page? And it was really interesting because you kind of have to be like, oh man, like where's that? How can I find the link in between those two things? And so you travel from one page to another page, and then it's just a matter of like how many links it took to get there. The Panda's in chat. I got that Game Boy Pocket. Oh, that's so cool. I love that it wasn't just kind of a thing that existed in my own reality, but it was a thing that existed and other people had it too. Serbs in chat. Hi. Hello. Oh my god, this is looking good. I am stoked about this. I'm just gonna put some bricks around, just miscellaneous bricks. I'm gonna have to figure out what kind of lich this is gonna be in here. Maybe I can add some little foreshadowing. I think it's just gonna be one of those just ragged liches. Valhalla Assassin. Will you be voicing any of the NPCs? That would be interesting. I might be down to do that. I do know a little bit of how to set that stuff up. It may happen if I do it, and I'm learning the skills to be able to complete some of the quests, so that I can be not just a level designer, but I can also be contributing for the quests. I'm starting to pick up those skills, so I might voice my own quests someday. I might actually do like a dungeon where, I don't know, I'm playing a bandit or something, and I ask the player to do something. I think that's always a really awesome thing for any game to do. I know Conan Exiles, they also did that thing where a lot of the devs, they ended up using their voices for different enemies and NPCs and stuff. Conan Exiles is a fun game. But I had a really good time getting into clans and getting into different things there. Liv Hand is Todd Howard voiced an NPC in Oblivion. He did, yeah. Todd Howard, he voiced, actually, there's a site where you can find the voice clips for it, and I ended up getting those voice clips. So I have them on my computer. And it's just like, he's saying testing dialogue, but it's still really funny just to hear like, oh yeah, there's Todd Howard, he's in the game. Atsuke30, the best way to get started with modding is just to try to do like a sword retext, right? I would say the best way to get started is to build a house for your player, because it depends on what avenue of modding you want to go to. Like, I never learned how to retexture. I learned how to do some 3D modeling, but I never learned how to retexture. I could probably do it, but I didn't go down that route. What I did instead was open up the creation kit. You can run through the tutorials on the creation kit wiki. It has amazing tutorials that'll do everything from creating a dungeon to creating a merchant, creating a follower. Like, there's all kinds of stuff out there. You just gotta look for it. And that, I would say, building a player house is the coolest way. Because then, like, if you have a character you've been playing with for a while, you can build them a house. You can build them a place where they live that is just for them, specific to how that character is. Atsuki in chat, I'll try that then, since I've never modded and don't even know what I like. Yeah, hey, I'm gonna see if I can find the tutorials for that. Tutorial for dungeon? I think they have a dungeon tutorial. because that's one of the best ways to get into it. Le Pandas. Anyone here looking forward to Skywind? It's been in development for a while now. I think it's bound to release soon. Oh, that's cool. So that is Morrowind in Skyrim. Yeah, Morrowind in Skyrim, man. That would be cool. I think I've seen some screenshots, and it's like Morrowind, but it's kind of like, you know, the volcano exploded. So, where do you go from there? Here we go. I found the website for you, like Atsuke, and anybody else who's also interested. And I'll bring it up on Notepad as well for anybody who's watching the YouTube version of this. This is all it is. So http christiankit.com/index. Title equals category tutorials. So that is where the tutorials are for the Christian kit. And I think they have, let me pull that out. Here we go. So they have a couple things. So if you're a complete beginner, they have kind of where you get started with that. On the right side here, there's also like level design fundamentals. So getting all that stuff set up. All the information's right there. This is the way I learned how to do it. Tutorials are a bit of a slog sometimes because, you know, you want to just create. You want to know what you need to know so that you can just get going on it. But the sad reality of it is that everybody has to go through it. Everybody has to learn it. Everybody has to have that kind of inner struggle of how much do I really want this? And my only advice is just kind of keep pushing through. At least as long as it's not, as long as you're not sacrificing too much of your time. You always got to look after yourself and make sure you're taking care of yourself. But beyond that, like, have at it, create, play around. There's so much you can do with this. And honestly, Skyrim's not going anywhere. It's going to be the same game. There's going to be people 10 years from now who are still modding it and still playing it. I'm actually very confident of that. And as a modder, like as somebody who creates mods, one of the biggest things that gets me to create a mod is like I'll play the game, and the way I play the game is I'll play it for a while, and then I'll realize, oh man, I wish there was something that did this. And then I'll have to stop, and I'll have to create that mod. And then 200 hours later, I open my save back up again, and I continue to play it, having created that thing. Wow. There it is. That is the fruit of my labor. There's the art. This beautiful, wretched dungeon art that I love. Alright, so now we get to hop in and we get to see what the next thing is. So there's also these kind of things on top. I'm gonna see if I can pop up. So these are interesting. I don't think we have these specific things, but I have columns I can use. So I'll use the columns there. Yeah, these things here. I've used these before. Pretty good. It's interesting. So this room altogether, and this is kind of one of the things that we do in the Beyond Skyrim project, is we kind of do like similarity. So it's not exactly the same, but if you were extremely familiar, like if you're this person who played Oblivion hundreds of times, you played through it, you've explored the dungeons, and now you're like, hey man, maybe I'm gonna try out Skyrim, but I still want to play Cyrodiil. You can do that, and it would be a very welcoming mod for you. Lepandas, will Beyond Skyrim contain quest directions like Morrowind, or will it be primarily quest markers? I know this isn't really your field, but just wondering if you knew. It's interesting. So it is very different depending on who makes the quest, but the cool thing about the project is that it's everybody who's working on Beyond Skyrim are huge fans of kind of like those nostalgic games, and we're fans of it for nostalgic reasons. So it's a matter of who's writing the quest and whether or not they have that same philosophy of you should be able to just read the quest log and know where to go. And so I think that it will be definitely more than Skyrim, but probably not as far as some of those other mods that I know there's some mods for Skyrim that will actually introduce that specifically as kind of this mod gives you, changes your quests into having just kind of directions. Lepandas. It does kind of tear apart my immersion that none of the NPCs specifically give you directions in Skyrim. How the hell does your character know where to go? And then Revan, alas, I must go. Alright, have a good one, man. Thanks for tuning in. I'm going to be doing another one of these streams this month sometime. So, yeah, just, keep in touch, eh? So in terms of immersion and stuff, one of the things that I started thinking, and it really improved my enjoyment of games where before I was kind of like, oh man, like, sometimes it can be unimmersive to have some things happen. And one of the things that was kind of like a difference in thought that I had was this idea of when you're reading a book, the author may leave out details, right? Like no game, no good game includes the character going to the bathroom. It just doesn't happen. And yet, where does all the food go? So it's kind of this idea of the author doesn't necessarily need to tell us every excruciating detail for us to believe that it happens, right? Like, I'm sure we can imagine the Dragonborn taking a shower, going to the bathroom, and sleeping and things like that, without necessarily needing to see it. So it's this idea of we can kind of fill in the gaps for ourselves. Alright, I think that's the room. Alright, and then so it kind of goes down and there's a door right there. Exit or something. Yeah, you guys in chat are saying you found it for the Reddit post? Nice. It's taken me a while to figure out how to get that done exactly because it's a matter of timing on my part where if I'm going to do a stream, it may be a 3-hour stream or so, but there's a few extra hours of me getting ready and posting the content up there, making sure that there's enough time for enough upvotes to happen where if I put an announcement on there, people will be able to see it. That's a gay in chat. Oh my god, I was just downloading the creation kit when I found out that you can just play ESO Arena and Daggerfall just like that. It's so cool, hey? Like, they did that at some kind of anniversary of Arena or something. I think it was like an anniversary of all the Elder Scrolls games. And they, for a while, those games had been kind of like public domain, like they were no longer controlled by copyright or anything. And so what they did is Bethesda, in kind of celebration of the anniversary of that game, they ended up making it way more accessible to get to those games. And and I think that they set it up in such a way that you don't have to use like emulators or anything to get it running. It's really cool. It's really interesting. Arena is, I think it's Arena, or was it Daggerfall that I played? I tried both of them. Daggerfall is cool. It is super cool. It's so different, and it's extremely difficult at the beginning. There's like a dungeon that's super hard to get out of that you start in, but well worth playing those classic games. You can, it's the same as the games these days, you can put in hundreds of hours into those games, and you can find it well worth it. Smeegs, thought Rule 3 said deliver the Amulet of Kings to Joffrey for a moment. Just joking with you. Yeah, I set that up just for you. Just so it was an elaborate assassination ploy. The pandas. No. He's going down the wrong path. It's worth a try. Give it a shot, and then you'll be like, okay, I understand now why this is not in the game. So I think I have to do a little bit more of a custom thing. Yeah, because it kind of goes all the way down, and then, oh, okay. This door is really interesting. I haven't used that style of door yet, but the cave goes down and then it turns right. So I'm going to try and copy that. Noticing now, I don't know if this is my mistake or something that we haven't quite finished with all the models, but these these caves, I've seen this happen before, where I'll place a bunch of them, and it's like there's different types of cave. Every single piece is a little bit different, and I'm not sure. Yeah, okay, Colovian, mine C. I think, oh man. So I think that we have multiple textures of mine depending on the location in Cyrodiil. And so there's this Colovian one, but even for this one, you know, it's the brown there, and then the brown is on the floor, and then it's on the wall. So I'm not quite sure if that's my mistake or the modeler's mistake. But I'm imagining they're going to fix that. I do want to make sure that this is the right one, CYR, Colovian. Oh man, there's so many. Colovian Mine, C Hall. Hall, there we go. Hall DE Twist. DE Twist, there we go. Alright, perfect. So, it's a little bit better. And then this one, I gotta change that one too. Atsuki in chat, wondering if some of that will accidentally be left in like the corner of the map. Yeah, that happens sometimes. We'll just kind of, we'll build something and we'll be like, oh wait, and then we get distracted because we're like, oh, this is cool. And then hopefully there's going to be a testing process for Beyond Skyrim before we get it all out there. So people will be playing through our dungeons and stuff before it gets left out, and more than just playing through it, they're going to be looking for bugs and ways to fix it and ways that it might be broken. So it's okay if I forget something. It'll be caught later on. Try my best to catch the weird stuff. I'll be playing through it a few times too. Mostly for the benefit of these streams, I've just been going right through them, playing right through. And actually, I think that's a really great way to do it because I tend to get more done if I don't try testing it. Smeegs in chat, so there'll be open beta applications, I presume. Probably. I think we actually already have some tester positions open. I'm not sure if we're looking to film more or anything. But there will most certainly be something like that. There's the farmhouse door. I don't know about using that. I think I'll just use some more boulders here. Those worked pretty well last time. Smeeks, looks like you got a nifty battle station room going on behind you. Yeah, me and my girlfriend, we live in Vancouver, which is like a really big city, and we used to live in an apartment building. Now we live in somebody's basement suite.
We've all felt it. Days blending into one, wondering how we'll make next month's payments and when we'll work again.
It's an ad, guys.
Of course you worry. And while we can't make everything all right, we can make some things better.
Oh, we gotta let it play.
By bringing you 0% interest on your credit card.
Alright, it's muted. We're saved. We're saved from the advertisements. But yeah, no, our room, we managed to get a 2-bedroom basement suite, and it is awesome. We use one of the rooms as where we sleep, and then the other one is this room here. And yeah, it's just been something that we wanted to get set up for a long time, and we finally got to a situation where we're like, yes, we can actually do it. Sometimes it just takes a matter of time. In chat, Valhalla Assassin, is there anything in particular you want to see in Elder Scrolls 6? Yeah, I mean, in terms of things they could do in it, it's interesting because there might be like new features that would be cool to see them do. I would love to see it be a lot more similar to Oblivion in its tone and feeling, and I would like to see them do more of the sort of like high fantasy stuff that Cyrodiil had in it. Because I think it's really cool when you get some kind of like almost like zany quests, but you know, these are all just my personal preferences. I think as a modder, things I would want as a modder for them to do in Elder Scrolls 6 would be making it very modifiable, making it easier to build quests and easier to build scripts. So having more script templates that we could pull from. So for instance, if I want to have like Aliads, for instance, if I wanted to make a trap in a dungeon, it's actually pretty tough to make a dungeon in the Christian kit to make traps, because you have to do these things, you have to script, you have to know how to script, and a lot of those things are some of the barriers that make it more difficult for more people to get in and create some of these things. So yeah, that's one thing I would love to see them do is make some new features in the Christian kit that would make it easier for people to kind of learn and get started. So there's a couple lights in this cave here. So the door's lit and this exit here is lit. Sneaks in chat, more to do with Oblivion planes and that kind of magical alien feel. That would be cool. That would be so cool. If I would love to see, I mean, ESO, like Elder Scrolls Online, has done an awesome job of filling out and creating and showing a lot of those other things. I'd love to see a Daedra quest line with like Hircine. That's okay. Oh my god, it's 4 a.m. Oh my god. Yeah, I mean, hey man, you might want to hit the hay. 4 a.m. is usually a good cutoff for, I know Skyrim modding, when you get into it, it's like, oh man, I want to keep going. All right, well, have a good one, hey? It was nice to chat with you. Yeah, I really appreciate when I really appreciate everybody chatting, because it's nice. Streams are difficult to do. I've done a few when I was first starting, where you're kind of sitting in silence, and it's unnerving, to say the least, when you're trying to do a stream and it's very quiet, because it's like, oh my god, is anybody out there, kind of thing. So, but it's just something you kind of get over, and you learn how to keep going, really. Okay, so the lights in here, oh wow, this is interesting. So Alien lights are kind of this pale blue, and then when we get in here, still using, let me see, it looks like it's almost a green light. Yeah, this is certainly blue. But over here, there's like a green cave light. So we're gonna see if I can find kind of a cave light then. Let me see. Cave. What kind of Cave light. We have cave sunlight. I want like a green... What kind of green lights do we have? We have some like real green lights. Is it an alien green light? No, that's way more saturated. Oh. So, I could try and create a green light. Smeeks in chat. If the rumors are correct and it's set in Hammerfall/High Rock, perhaps we'll see some form of sword singing, like the Thuum made a comeback in 5. That would be cool. I think that would be awesome. I hope it is set in High Rock. I think that's a really interesting theme, because it's almost like that kind of Camelot kind of a theme, High Rock. And we actually have a Beyond Skyrim, there's a Beyond Skyrim High Rock project going on too, and I saw a stream that one of the guys was doing for that, and it just looks so cool. Oh, that is strangely almost the kind of light that I want. Yeah, the Iliac Bay, that's it. It's not called High Rock, it's the Iliac Bay, Beyond Skyrim. I may have to make my own light here. Okay, so that's one of the things where it's totally fine if I make my own. It's mostly just that we have to be careful about the lights that we add, because we don't want to add too many of them. But oh wait, we have green light. No, see why green light shadow? Ooh, that is not it. That is too bright. Yeah, okay, so I'm gonna make my own. So I'm gonna duplicate that light. Stupidious, hello! I won't say much longer, but before I go, I want you to know that I'm eagerly waiting for this mod. Highly appreciate that you work on this. Thank you. Yeah, it may be a while still until it's all done, but it's always so cool to kind of have that experience, and you know, yeah, everybody's always like, I'm excited for it to get finished too, because when it does, I think I will have the coolest playthrough, right? Because you can just go between Skyrim and Cyrodiil, and it's like you have these two games these two themes you can just kind of wander into. Yeah, it's a really cool community-driven project. Skyrim can't be big enough. It's true. I mean, I would love to see them. I would love to see us keep going, and I think it would be so cool to just kind of keep building out the mods and stuff until, I mean, modding in Skyrim is already bigger than the original game. So it'll be interesting once we get into the territory when the mods are larger than the game itself. Alright, so I created a cave light for myself, and this is looking a lot better. That's the color that I actually want. So we have one light there, and the other one is down this way. Just like that. There we go. Awesome. Oh boy, so that is the first cell. That's the whole thing. So if I zoom out, I mean, it's almost the whole thing. I think there's actually a little bit more. A little bit more up here. Oh yeah, chat. Remember seeing Uber stream the Breton Crypts with those spectacular tile sets? Yeah, that's the one that I'm remembering. I think it was those streams and seeing that tile set. Like it's one of the most epic tile sets I've seen because the scale of it is just so massive. I think it's going to be such a cool experience. Okay, so I just want to do this little bit up here. I want to finish this whole cell off before I go into the next one, because I know the next one is actually using a different tile set. I think it's using what we have for the Imperial Ruins. It's a really interesting dungeon. It starts Iliad, goes through a cave, and then it becomes like an Imperial Ruin. Alright, so how does this one go? So it sort of goes into a square door. Okay, I'll see if I have that square door. Goes forward a bit, and then we get another one of those. It's called like a pit. It's a pit room. So it's gonna be an exit. So I'm gonna be using one of these. Don't think there we go. Okay. So it'll be using this one here. That's the one. Smeegs, there was an MMO that never got off the ground called Chronicles of Elvia, where there were some desired mechanics involving actual aging of a character, where you continued play through different generations of a character, a literal dynamic world whose inhabitants lived and died. Obviously, it's too ambitious for an MMO, but for a single-player RPG, it'd be interesting if something similar was being worked on for 6, since we've been waiting for the technology and we've been getting closer to that. Yeah, it's really cool. And like as somebody who's also into not only modding, but I'm also into like game design, and I do some programming on like Unity. So using the Unity editor, and my belief is that we have that technology. Like we're so advanced now that we can do that. It's just a matter of getting it in a way where it's playable and fun too. And not only that, but also because people have been. I know there's a lot of games and simulations. Like one of my favorite games is Dwarf Fortress. So Dwarf Fortress is a game that has been being developed for...
BC. Oh. Keep calm and carry on immunizing.
Sorry, we got another ad. That was a Canadian one. Yeah, so we have that technology. We have it there. It's just a matter of like creating those games specifically. And sometimes they're there, it's just that they might be text-based, or they might not have great graphics because they're being made by small teams. Dwarf Fortress is a game that simulates not only the geography of an entire kind of Lord of the Rings style world with goblins and elves and humans and their history over hundreds of years. It generates the kind of the rainfall and the geography of it. It generates kind of it's a game about dwarves, Dwarf Fortress, digging into the earth and unearthing demons from deep below as you kind of try and build your Dwarf Fortress larger, and you get to see all these details. It goes into like the psychology of all of your individual dwarves too, so it's like you get to see their likes and their dislikes. It gives you a huge amount of information, more than you could possibly ever use. but people have made some really fantastic stuff with it. I think one of my favorites is on YouTube. There's a guy called Krug Smash, and I'll type that down. Actually, I'll show you guys in Notepad. So this is Krug Smash, and what he does is he takes Dwarf Fortress almost as a platform for storytelling, and he draws these scenes from the game and tells this story of his playthrough. In terms of like a deep world with that kind of realistic quality and depth, Dwarf Fortress is the best one that I've ever heard of. They're working on a Steam version of Dwarf Fortress that will be easier to play and easier to learn. Small Crocodile in chat. Watching Dwarf Fortress is very different to playing Dwarf Fortress. It is very, very different. Because it's a text-based game, it's so different and difficult to work with, but the way that Krug Smash does it is brilliant because he's spent the time it takes to learn how to play this game, and then eventually he's gotten to a point where he can really just show it and build these stories and share it so that more people can have that experience of reading this world that's been generated with this incredible depth. We got Kelwawa in chat. Howdy. Hello. Alright, so I just need to do these little holders. I've seen this done a few times. It's kind of like, what's he called again? Oh, I have one earlier in the level, I think. Yeah, there they are. These things, I'll just copy them. I love it. When you've been building a map for a little bit, and you have parts of it that you can just copy paste from earlier, is like, it's just so nice. It's very convenient because now I don't have to dig through all the piles of stuff. There we go. And then I just need a little bit more. So there's another one like that. What's it called? It's called a fixture. So Iliad, that's right, fixture. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. Raptor Cloud. Ooh, this seems interesting. Making maps. Yes, indeed. I am doing some level design for the Beyond Skyrim Cyrodiil modding project, and so what I'm doing is this is kind of like the second episode in the series that I've been doing, and I'm trying to show the whole process from start to finish of building a dungeon. So it's kind of cool. We're gonna start. So far I'm building out the map. I'm copying it, and actually what I'm doing is, so this room here, I'm copying it from Oblivion. So it's supposed to be this map from Oblivion in the time of Skyrim. So here's that same room, and here it is in my version. So you can go, there's the original version, there's the new version. It's fairly similar enough to, you know, get you feeling nostalgic. So, Small Crocodile, you should put a bunch of gold on top of those two things you placed. Only we, the chat here, would know about it. Ooh. Chat, Jiraiya, how are you doing, bro? I'm doing pretty good, yeah. Just kind of continuing on with building out this dungeon. I'm surprised I actually made a whole lot of progress today that I wasn't sure how much I would get done today, and it's been going pretty good. The biggest thing today was I built out this thing that took a long time, and now now it's going pretty quick now that I'm back into just kind of placing holes and things. So I need a door, and then a little tunnel, and then it opens up again. Small Crocodile, when we install this mod, we can choose what menu display we want, right? Regular Skyrim menu or an Oblivion style thing. You can, yeah. The mod itself, what the Beyond Skyrim mod does, and we do have Beyond Skyrim Burma out, and what it does is it kind of just adds new areas. So you can basically play Skyrim exactly as you have before, but you also get the addition of a new area too. So yeah, like any mods that you would have on your Skyrim already, you would just kind of add to that. I imagine there probably is some kind of like Oblivion style menu mod. The pandas in chat. Does the Emperor's death in the Dark Brotherhood questline affect the storyline of Beyond Skyrim Cyrodiil in any tangible way? I believe it does. I think that from what I've read of the notes that the writers have done, is it fits in. Like there's consequences that really shift what's going on in Cyrodiil. So if you pick certain things, I think the biggest one is if the Imperials win or if the Stormcloaks win. Because if the Stormcloaks win, there's a whole lot of consequences. And it really shifts things up. Okay, so I just need to add this light here. So there's going to be some crystals. Alright, so there's light before with no crystals, and then there's light after with crystals. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a few of those crystals. And place them here. Do one on each side. Yeah, Small Crocodile. Wondering if there'd be a bunch of new items and if it'd be using any custom menu parts that might not play well with any retexture. Yeah, we're trying to keep in mind with the idea that people who are installing the Beyond Skyrim projects when they're completed, they're going to be doing so on probably heavily modded saves already. And so the way that we're doing retextures is a lot of the stuff, like all of these things, it's adding in a new model with its own texture. So it's not going to impact any retextures that people have already. People are going to be able to continue on, like, I think the hope is you would be able to just install the mod as well as everything else that you already have, and that it wouldn't conflict with the existing mods that people have on their Skyrim. Alright, so this continues out. There's a door there. Nice. Okay. So that's another idiot pit. Smeeg's asking about any plans for the Beyond Skyrim team to make their own alternate start mod that enables starts in any of the available provinces. I think our hope is that people would, like, for instance, like the live another life. Oh yeah, for sure. I'll reduce that music just a little bit. Just because somebody in chat was saying it's a little loud. Sometimes it peaks a bit depending on the song. For alternate starts, yeah, I think we're expecting other modders to kind of fill in the gaps for that kind of stuff. And so, for instance, like Live Another Life, the other alternate start modders will probably just create a plugin or add in new areas for it. I also have an alternate start mod. I created a mod called Realm of Lorcan, and for sure you can bet for sure, like, I'll be adding some plugins to make sure you can start Cyrodiil as well. I'd love to make it so you can start in every city, because I love that idea of creating your own adventurers who aren't part of the main quest or anything. Valhalla Assassin asking, will there be a revamped quest to get the Knights of the Nine armor? Perhaps something to do with the champion last having the armor? I don't know, yeah. I know that there was some kind of like Creation Club a DLC that gave you the Crusader armor, and I'm not sure so far. I think we're considering that canon. But I think it's kind of a gray area, right? Because a lot of people would be like, oh, like, you know, Creation Club cannot be canon, and other people would be like, oh, you know, it doesn't matter. For my purposes in this dungeon, because it's like the helmet is found in this dungeon. What I'm going to do instead is I'm kind of making it so that that helmet was taken out and probably went somewhere else. And instead, there's this kind of like sick replica that isn't quite the same. Doesn't have as good stats as the actual piece, but it is kind of like a replacement. It's sort of the same thing, but almost corrupted. Okay, so what I want to do with this one is, so it gets a corner there and a corner there. Okay. Yeah, I think it would be cool to give kind of like a replica, because it will build that nostalgia of if you experienced that questline in Oblivion and you kind of want to go there because you're like, oh man, like that's where that helmet was, wasn't it? You can go there and you'll get the helmet, but it's gonna be a different helmet. so I think on this side I am building another one of those collapse sections. So let's see how this works. I'm gonna try and copy this gigantic chunk. That thing I worked on this for like 40 minutes, this piece here, and we're gonna see if I can just copy paste it, move it somewhere else. So for starters, I'm gonna put it over here, and then I have to trim it down. Elijah, Deputy, do you have access to the entire Alien kit from Oblivion? It's interesting. The project is not able to use the original Oblivion assets due to like kind of legal reasons regarding like the rights of the people, the artists who worked on the original Oblivion. So instead, what we're doing is we are creating new versions of it. And so the alien kit that you see is one that was kind of made from scratch, but to the same dimensions as the original. All right. This is cool. Okay, what kind of lighting do I want in there? I think I'm gonna put my cave lighting. Oh no, the alien lighting. No, I'm gonna do my cave lighting. So in terms of like the kit, it is almost everything that was in that original kit. There's a few things that are different though. And there's a few pieces that we don't have access to, which makes it a little tough sometimes. S. Laxalot, just realized you're the modder behind Faction Economy. It's a favorite of mine. Any plans to extend it to Bruma? Thank you. Yeah, Faction Economy was a really interesting mod because I was experimenting with seeing, you know, like sometimes there's those kind of mod requests that go out on Reddit where people are asking like, hey, does anybody know of a mod like this? I saw one of those and was like, hey, like maybe I could make this mod. And so I put in the time to kind of build it up, and it ended up being pretty good. I really enjoy it. I think it's really interesting how you can have this, it really adds to that feeling of the world being connected. There's things when you sell something to a merchant, you can see it pop up somewhere. I think that's super cool. In terms of plans to extend it to Bruma, I'm not sure. I think for me right now, I have I've been focusing on different things. So like while I do plan on like, I do maintain my mods, but sometimes it's the time it takes for me to get around to updating a mod can be a lot longer than what people normally expect. And that's because I'm a modder who has been going for multiple years. And so sometimes if I leave a mod, I try to leave it into a good state before I kind of take a break or like a vacation from it. I try to make sure it's in a good state. So I think I don't have any plans to extend it to Bruma. What I might do is I might work on the documentation to make it easier for people to extend it themselves. I think that's the kind of perspective that I'm taking with my mods recently, is that when people want new features, maybe the best way for me to provide that, rather than kind of sacrificing and spending more of my own time, maybe the best way to do that is to teach people how to do it themselves, so that they get the tools and the abilities to take the mod where they want it. Alright, so I set up this cave here. It's kind of stuff. Oh, that's the stuff I dropped earlier. So it kind of just goes left, right, and then there's that. There's the thing there. So we're just gonna change that around a bit. In chat, Valhalla Assassin, what region in Cyrodiil is your favorite to work on? My favorite is Bravil, and that's because Bravil is the most nostalgic for me, because back when I played Oblivion, most of my time was around Bravil. I actually managed to snag the claim for Bravil Castle in the Beyond Skyrim project, so I'll be doing that interior of that castle. And I did a stream quite a while ago, quite a few months ago, where I was kind of showing where Bravil Castle is at. So I think that one's on my YouTube. Yeah, because that's one of my earlier versions of this kind of stream. But yeah, Bravil is really cool. I like Bravil the most. I just love the kind of rainforesty kind of atmosphere, as well as that kind of swamp. Like you don't really know what exactly is in there. My favorite kind of thing to build, though, is definitely Alien Ruins. I think Alien Ruins are really cool, and I've been trying to build that as like within the project, like my specialty. Is that I've been really focusing on doing these Alien Ruins well. The Pandas in chat. Anyone here seen Better Call Saul? I've seen some of it. I thought that the writing for it and stuff is really really clever. Breaking Bad, like as a whole, that show has been, I've really enjoyed watching it. that is this section off. So I'm gonna go zoom out. Here's the isometric of it. And whew. Oh boy, gonna do a big stretch. Okay. So over on Vanua here, I have this, so I can compare it. So we built. We done. Oh, did I miss it? No, I didn't. I'm just looking at it like, wait, is that not the right side? I'm just looking at this one versus this, but what I did was I simplified some of it because I had to keep it going with this kind of custom collapsed cave bit I did. But yeah, that's the first cell, built out and complete. That's pretty cool. So what I would normally do next is, well, what I'll do next is I'm going to go on to the next cell, but another thing people do is they'll go in and they'll do cluttering. I might actually do cluttering because I said I would do this for 3 hours and I have about 18 minutes left. So I think what I'll do for now, just because that's not enough time to start a whole new cell, is I'm going to do clutter for this one, and then I'm going to do another stream probably in 2 weeks. And at that stream, I'm going to continue on with the second cell. So yeah, I'm just going to go through and do some polishing. Actually, this is a good point for me to go back into Oblivion. Small crocodile, so you're copying the designs or you're making new stuff? Because I always remember Oblivion being kind of confusing to navigate. Yeah, so we're trying to do a blend of the two models in some ways. So we'll have Oblivion style, and this dungeon is actually pretty good because one of the things that Oblivion was notorious for is those dungeons that you kind of walk in one way and then you have to walk out the same way, and it kind of messed up the flow of the dungeon because you go through and you kind of want to be out of the dungeon, but you have to trek back through it the other way, and different people have different opinions about that. But this one's actually pretty good because, oh hey, look at this. This is, oh boy, do I feel good when I see mistakes in Oblivion, because it makes me feel like I don't have to be perfect to make a good game. This isn't the original Oblivion. They went pretty quickly through that. Yeah, so this is just the exit of the dungeon. This is one of those kind of Skyrim style dungeons where you go in one way and it's a loop and it kind of brings you out somewhere near the entrance. This one does that thing where it brings you out near the entrance. But yeah, this is a pretty good one. I think this dungeon is pretty linear. Yeah, so I'm gonna go back and decide what kind of clutter I want to do. So this is an interesting room. I don't know if I completely finished that room when I was doing it last. Yeah, we're right here. So that's kind of different. In chat, Valhalla Assassin, have you tried your hand at modding Fallout 4? I looked at it. I was wondering about it. And I think for me, I prefer the theme and like aesthetic of Elder Scrolls compared to like post-apocalyptic. I do like zombie movies. I was actually watching like the Dawn of the Dead, the old OG, the old Dawn of the Dead, and they're making ofs too, because the making of documentaries are really good about them too. There's something interesting that they talk about with like George Romero's style, where he was very kind of nice and pleasant to the people he worked with, and I think that's really inspiring. But as far as Fallout 4, yeah, like for me, it's not so much that I dislike it, because I have put a lot of hours into Fallout 4, and I really do enjoy I like the settlement building stuff. I love that stuff. I like that about 76 as well, that you get to build your own kind of like little shanty. I thought that was really cool. I'm very much like a builder kind of person in games. But yeah, in terms of modding for it, I think I preferred the Skyrim space because at the time when Fallout 4 came out, a lot of the really, a lot of the modders went over to Fallout, so I kind of stuck around in the Skyrim space. I do like how the game itself is like a critique of that kind of consumerism and the America kind of the idea that America can be propaganda too, and that it, you know, the Cold War was really just kind of two sides of humanity in a way, like, and not even two sides, but they're pretty much the same. They just, one was us and the other was them. Okay, so all right, so this is what I'm going to do, is I have these wonderful roots, these awesome roots that I can throw around the dungeon, and one thing that I really like to do is make it so that I have, where do we have it? My girlfriend keeps texting me from the other room. I just gotta make sure there's nothing, no emergency. I think she's just okay. We're good. Cool. So this is what I want to do, is kind of make this cracked ground with these roots growing in different areas, because I think these roots are really cool. Small crocodile. The critique of American propaganda often falls flat, though, as it comes in with a rather shallow take instead of anything rather cutting, and avoids making any strong political statements. Yeah, I agree. I think from some perspectives, I think everybody has to start somewhere, and for Fallout to be a really big piece, like it's mass media entertainment, but for it to take kind of a critical view of American kind of Cold War society. Yeah, I think it's interesting. It's a good start, but I think it's definitely not like a end-all kind of thing. I've heard Disco Elysium is also quite good for being an interesting kind of political game. The Pandas. Yeah, I don't think an actual critique of American capitalism would be commercially successful. Yeah. But, you know, there are mods for that. That's the point. Yeah, that's the interesting thing about the market. It's hard to use those tools to get at it. All right, I like this room. This looks awesome. I'm gonna add cobwebs too. I'm gonna put some spiders in here. I think liches would be good friends with spiders. Do a cobweb dangle. I like these ones. I will be right back. My girlfriend actually just needs something from the room, so I'll just get her now. Alright, I'm back. Alright, so I was working on this cobweb here. Kind of dangle. Do it on the other side, actually. This is another thing I love to do. I've done this with, I've actually, in terms of alien dungeons for the project, I've probably done like 4 or 5 dungeons so far that are specifically alien dungeons. And so I've been picking up all these kind of neat like tips and tricks kind of thing. And one of my favorite things to do is put cobwebs on top of chests because the player can click through them, but they just look super cool. Okay, so there's some cobwebs in there. I'm gonna add some more cobwebs. Oh yeah, I have to collapse that. I'm gonna use some bricks. Move some bricks over there. Lepandas, are you given these assignments by someone, like do a specific dungeon, or do you ask to do it? We ask to do it. So we use a tool called Trello. Trello is a, I almost want to call it like a bulletin board kind of thing. And it's used to kind of like track different cases and things like that. I almost want to just show you guys the Trello so that you guys can see what I mean. I don't know if, I'm just going to make sure there's nothing too spoilery. I might not show you guys this. Okay, I can show you Trello, but I won't show you the Beyond Skyrim one. This is one for Conan Exiles. So Conan Exile, this is what we use. Imagine this, but each of these tabs here is like a dungeon that we need to build. And so what we do is I would just click into it, and then I would add like myself on as a label, and that's how we kind of claim different dungeons. Is we use this tool, Trello, to kind of distribute like the workload. And yeah, it's entirely voluntary. When I first started, I would ask the level design lead to go like, hey, like, is it okay if I take this dungeon? Just because I was getting started with the project. Nowadays, I can literally just, and it's not necessarily that I have like seniority or anything. It's just that like anybody really, like, you can claim any dungeon you want to do, and just the whole idea is like don't claim too many dungeons. Otherwise, somebody might need to ask you to kind of pick your favorites. It's really nice and free collaboration. Let's go and put a few blocks down here. And then I'm gonna garnish it. A little garnish of roots. Some roots on top. And I need a little bit of lighting. I'm gonna put a treasure chest down there. This one can be a shadow light, I think. Yeah, there we go. before I go. I like that because it's kind of symbolic of like putting treasure chests at the end of an area is kind of symbolic of like imagining if the player was not just an adventurer, but they were also like digging through these places. Maybe kind of a cool design choice if I had these roots here. I did a few layers of these, so what if I do a big layer at the back? And then kind of a medium layer at the front. What would that look like? Then I take the light and make it a little bigger. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I like that a lot. I'm gonna do that. Yeah, that's cool. Oh, yeah. I'm stoked. Alright. Chat, are you adding new sections to the dungeon and castles with, say, a secret room that may have opened up over time? Yeah, I think I'll probably get into that once I build the second cell. I think there's 3 cells. Let me take a look again at the wiki here. Oops. So for Vanua, there's 3 cells to it, and so today we finished off the first one. So we could say we're about a third done the whole dungeon, but I think the other ones are maybe a little bit smaller. The third one's pretty small. The second one is probably, due to its complexity, it's probably about the same size as the first one. So I'll be doing that one. I think this one, yeah, I love the idea of adding in secret doors, especially in Ayleid Ruins. I think I might add another extra room, especially because we were kind of just looking at these areas up here, which you can't really get to unless you're using like a modded like levitation spell or something. So that's a possibility. Otherwise, I have this area up here, maybe. Yeah, I might add it in the second cell. I would like to do some kind of secret. I think that'd be awesome. Alright. Well, it is just past 7. I'm always kind of mixed whenever I'm like, oh, I'm going to wrap up my stream, and then I look over, I'm like, oh, there's like 30 viewers. I should keep going. But for my sanity and for my endurance, because this is a marathon, I'm gonna probably wrap it up here. So yeah, thank you everybody for coming by. There's actually one last thing I want to show you guys. This was actually kind of interesting. I thought you guys would find it funny. When I'm building dungeons, sometimes it is super helpful to like look at people's playthroughs. And some of the people who played through Oblivion a whole lot is the Lefebvre Bros. So I have here, I grabbed this one. This is them, they're playing Vanua. Or not, yeah, they're playing Vanua, that's this dungeon. And it's pretty great.
Like, they don't care unless you take the helmet.
This is gonna be I think this is the second cell.
What are you doing?
He's hitting me a lot. I can't move.
Really?
Yeah.
You're gonna die.
No, I'm gonna be fine.
You can't move.
I
You're
can't
serious.
move. I'm stuck. Yeah.
Man, you're done. R.I.P.
Yeah, I can't do a thing.
Shoot,
I
you
can't move at all.
can't shoot or... Oh my god.
But anyways, that continues until he dies. But it's funny the ways that we explore these things and we learn how to do it. I'm gonna see if I can find a point in the video where they're actually running through the part we just built.
Oh
Just
shit!
died out.
Nothing's fighting us. Everything's standing there.
Yeah, so they're gonna walk into. This is what we
He's
just built
intimidated
today.
by our newly repaired armor.
Yeah. Is that ebony armor? Oh no. So why is it only affecting the
Its feet,
ground?
I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a part of what we built. But yeah, so yeah, thanks for coming by and chatting. Huge appreciation to just everybody who contributes to the Skyrim modding community, because it really is a community, and you don't have to be a modder to contribute. Everything that we do, like when we motivate people, one of the things that I try and motivate people to do is when you're downloading a mod or there's something a mod you really appreciate, make a post on that mod's comments and just say like, this is awesome, I love this part of the mod, because being a modder, I know how much that means to us when we get to see that, you know, these people all over the world are appreciating the things that we do, because ultimately we're just doing it for fun. We're doing it because we enjoy it, and because we want to share that enjoyment with everybody else. So yeah, look, you can probably expect to have another stream in about 2 weeks. I like Tuesdays, so it might happen then. Good ways to keep in touch is, I mean, there's the Twitch stuff here, the like notifications, that'll show you for sure if I'm streaming. Otherwise, I do announcements on Twitter too, so that's another good place. And then I also just put posts up usually on the Reddit for the our Beyond Skyrim and our Skyrim mods. Those are the two that I post to. So yeah, so cheers. I hope you guys have a good couple weeks, and looking forward to doing this next time. Goodbye.